Hello, welcome y'all to a video of When Black Women Speak.
Precisely. So we could not get our February schedules together. So instead, rather than making y'all wait after that bomb conversation we had in January, we decided to pre-record February's episode. We will be in the chat. So the conversation is going to be just as organic as it always is. Y'all definitely be in response to the video. We'll be responding in the chat. So, but here we are, February 2022, When Black Women Speak. We're on my channel, Brittwriterly. I'm Britt to the book and author tube, where I talk about the intersections of literature and culture. There is writerly content, there is bookish content. Get your life however you want to. If you like the content, definitely smash that big red button and we can be internet friends. And now I will let my lovely co-hosts introduce themselves more fully.
Hey everybody, I'm Shay. My channel is Shay with the Hobbies. I write short stories, poetry, and the occasional blog post.
She is also the founder, one of 3 founders for the Missy Elliott read-along. And we hope that y'all are participating. There are 7 prompts, and then there is an announcement video, because y'all might have not started this month, and you should, because it's Black History Month. You need to live your best life. So go over to Shay's channel and also Britt's channel and go ahead and watch their announcement. And also, Hey It's Day also is a co-host, so it's 3 of them. They got nice graphics. Just go ahead and live your life. They got 2 group reads, so just go ahead and dive into the greatest hit tour. You know what I'm saying? Get your freak on with Missy Elliott. And also, Shay is now a published author, but one of her short stories is on the Amazon. So definitely go ahead and get that. We'll try to put the link to that in this one so that you can go ahead and click and get her story. I think it's the 3rd or the 2nd to last. And ding, sleep on it. You're gonna come back to that ding and we're gonna talk about it. Okay, we're gonna talk about it. So I just had to gas folks up just for a second.
Appreciate you.
Did you introduce yourself, Bree?
No.
I did.
No, you didn't. You just
Oh.
started talking off of my introduction.
Oh,
You
sorry.
didn't introduce yourself.
Sorry, I'm a little hyper today. My name is Bree. I have a channel called Lockbooktician. Yeah, so I have a channel called Lockbooktician. I like to read thriller, mystery, and horror. I'm also the creator of Black Women-a-thon, which is dope. I have an Etsy shop. I'm a therapist, and that's it.
Okay. And also she has a plant tube, the Locks Plantician. So if you're into plants, you should definitely check her out there. She's very active on TikTok. They're hilarious. You should check her out there. It's also the Lockbooktician on TikTok. And also, small correction, Shay is the creator of the Missy Elliott Readathon. Me and Dejan are just co-hosts, but it's Shay's Readathon, and we're along for the ride.
I was afraid on how to say it. I didn't want to step on nobody's toes.
It's
so I was
fine.
like, collectively, I'm sorry. I take it back.
No, it's
I'm
fine.
a fake friend. I'm a fake friend. Fake friend.
Not at all, because I just say we're all the hosts of the Readathon. So
that's why I like to say it, because Shay won't say that she's the Readathon creator. She just says we're all hosts.
Right. So what we're saying is, Shay, the best thing since sliced bread.
Man. Anyways, we are supposed to be having a When Black Women Speak.
And we're speaking.
And Black women are speaking.
We're speaking. We're speaking life into you. Amen.
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 Amen. Okay, so y'all, this conversation today, we are, sorry. I almost minimized this, which apparently you can't do when you're on Zoom and this recording. So this conversation is going to be sort of a spinoff from what we were talking about last month. We're going to be talking about gatekeeping and Booktube and in publishing, which I know all of y'all have feels on it. We have feels too. So we're just going to hop right in to our first question, which is, what is gatekeeping? And I think that maybe we should define like, what is gatekeeping specifically in Booktube? Like what genres and categories thrive in the Booktube space? And then maybe we could treat what is gatekeeping and publishing as a second question. So I have been on Booktube for like a little over a year. So Bree probably could say more about this than I could. But as far as like what genres and categories seem to thrive, definitely YA thrives on Booktube. And I think fantasy is also very popular. And then there's maybe romance is a close second, but I see a lot of YA stuff and I see a lot of fantasy stuff, which I think is connected to publishing. There's a lot of YA fantasy being released right now. But as far as like what trends are really like maybe overrepresented in Booktube, I think YA fantasy is definitely overrepresented for sure.
I agree. I would also add some literary fiction and contemporary fiction underneath that, guys, as well. That is being more talked about in the book community, in my opinion. I'll also even extend it a bit farther or narrow it down a bit. I feel like younger booktubers really are interested in that YA fantasy, literary, contemporary, romance, fiction more than any other genre. Because I find that booktubers who are more in like their late 20s, early 30s, even approaching 40s, read more like just eclectically, I guess I will say, like more different genres and really like read adult. But I'm not saying this is everyone, but it's just that's the trends that I'm getting from folks.
So could either one of you define gatekeeping though? Because we're talking about like the focus, but we didn't really give a gatekeeping definition.
We didn't.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, Bree.
Oh, sorry. I was going to go for the dictionary and then go to another part. So the dictionary says, gatekeeping is the activity of controlling and usually limiting general access to something. And when you look at gatekeeping from a communication level, it can be like individual, it can be from an organization level, it can be from social systems, it can be from social institutions, or the ways in which you communicate with other people. But on an individual level, Britt, what is gatekeeping to you?
I mean, I think what I think gatekeeping is pretty close to the definition that you gave. So I think maybe I'll just like, so gatekeeping in Booktube, and then Shay, maybe you could do gatekeeping in publishing so we can like open up the conversation. But gatekeeping in Booktube, I think, shows itself of hyper focusing on specific genres and even specific types of storytelling and specific formulas of storytelling. And I think what it comes down to is it's another form of marketing. So all these other kinds of stories that we say we want to see that break out of the formula, you have to really, really hunt for them because they don't get any shine on places like Booktube, where people might go to like see, well, what's up, let me get a top 10 list or whatever. And then it's these New York Times bestsellers rather than books that people haven't really heard about. So gatekeeping starts to craft a narrative of what you should be reading. And then we're all reading the same books and the same types of books. And it just controls marketing attention on what books people even know are out if everyone's talking about the same books, the same type of book or the same author or whatever.
Which is why BookTok is so famous.
What do you mean?
BookTok is like everywhere. It's like in Barnes and Nobles. They'll be like, these books, so they was on BookTok. Like, and then like Target would be like, oh, these were on BookTok. Like, it's just like,
oh, it's in Target now too.
So
wow, did not know. Okay, Shay, what is the publishing? What do you think?
So for me, when I think of gatekeeping and publishing, I think about the access in which publishing allows to certain stories, right? So specifically how more marketing things go to stories where there's a white love interest for a Black main character, specifically in how in a lot of the more recent covers in which publishing has brought out, most Black female covers have natural hair over anything else. Like that's the number one thing, even if that is not how the character themselves acts in the story, but it's part of that pushing of the narrative, I think. And so when I think of gatekeeping and publishing, I think about the system in which publishing guarantees which stories come out and which don't, and which ones they show hype to, right? Because like even when we think about Lazelle's book was amazing, and Lazelle's book was about Black family and nothing more than Black family, really at the core of it.
Yeah,
we got some of the least amount of marketing of any YA fantasy book or contemporary that came out last year.
Pulling down awards.
Pulling down awards,
like
everything was not given the same stuff that we saw with Ace of Spades or White Smoke.
Right. And she's in the YouTube space. So like, again, like the Booktube trends control who gets marketing shine from that platform. And even others, because there are some booktubers who like get asked to give awards at like FireCon and other different types of like book cons that are happening outside of the booktube space. So like there is real sort of cash or cachet, however you pronounce that word, with being popular on booktube. But I think, and this might be tangential, but we can be tangential. I think when you said like we see, so the tangent is blackfishing, just letting you know. Because I think that is part of gatekeeping, right? Is discerning what people want to see and then tricking them into thinking that you're giving it to them while you're still only allowing the formula to operate, right? So when you say, which I thought was very, like my whole little face was just like, that was funny. When you said like they're on the cover, bless you. I don't know if that was a sneeze.
No, it wasn't, but continue.
Okay. When you said that on the cover they have natural hair, but then in the book they don't act like that. Like there's a correlation between hair and behavior. And so whether or not publishers understand how that's true, they understand enough to signal to a certain type of Blackness on the cover and then present a very conservative, whitewashed Blackness in the book. And I think that's an interesting thought about how like blackfishing is still emerging from control and censure.
Because like, I mean, what y'all did was legitimately, we saw y'all put Black faces on stories that had no Black people in them for Black classics. And then y'all were like, okay, we won't do this, but we will do it for books that actually are new and exist and have Black characters. Like, it was like, we're not gonna waste this Black art we created.
We already have a contract, so we're gonna have to push that through.
Blackfishing is just, I'm very interested in it as a concept. There's just so many things I have thoughts about it, and I won't go into all of them right now, but I do vaguely remember a book that I like. I won't say the name, but it's a book that I like, and on the cover, the male interest is looking like he dark skinned when he not. He is fully a white man in the book. And I was like, So I just thought about that. I just wanted to say that.
So we're just lying at this point.
We're just lying. We're just lying on Beyonce's internet.
What book is this?
I can't divulge, but definitely.
Like
why can't you? The book is out there.
outside of like, because like we know like that happened for Octavia Butler, right? Like we know that her books came out with white people on the cover because of when they came out. So outside of the time frame, I don't understand. It shouldn't happen now. If the book is not Octavia Butler old, then it shouldn't be happening.
I mean, and that's on period.
Like it shouldn't have happened then, but we can't change that it happened in 2022. It shouldn't be happening. And then really I feel some type of way about you as an author
for allowing that to happen.
Because at the very least, even if I didn't have control over it and I couldn't, I would definitely let you know I was not okay with that cover. If I publicly have to let you keep this cover, I'm gonna publicly let you know I'm not okay with you darkening my cover to have a white character. Like I don't.
That doesn't make any sense.
Sometime in this conversation, we got to talk about how we sometimes as Black people are complicit in this BS, because
let's just get on into it.
That's the part that's really getting me. And so when we were talking about this conversation, what I was thinking of was there was a tweet, and I want to say it was by, I'm not going to say the girl's name, but the author of the King Arthur stuff. And it was about how by people being upset that there weren't more Black people in the book, and that was her experience, we are gatekeeping the types of Black experiences people can have. The way that she just tweets like she is doing stuff that like never existed before in time infuriates me. Because like, how did that even sentence occur to you as a thing?
Because that would act as though we're like, because what I have heard is you're in the South at a state university. So it's not about was that your experience of being surrounded by white people. That's a lot of Black people's experience, being surrounded by white people. It was, how are you acting like she's not seeing any other Black people, but literally 3 other people on UNC Chapel Hill's campus? Because there were readers who were like, I go there, or I went there, and their BSU or whatever they call their Black Student Alliance or Black Student Union, whatever they call that club, they're like, it's very active and they're very visible. So for her not to have seen it is odd. So to me, and I didn't see the tweet, but as you're presenting it, that misrepresents what the critique was. The critique wasn't that Black people get surrounded by white folks. It happens in a lot of different spaces. But for you to have it in that scenario just looks like you're crowding out Black people with a bunch of white ones when she's already going into this super white historical institution of the order. So it was just like, I don't know, that misrepresents what I heard of the critique. And it definitely misrepresents what my critique was, which was, how were there no Black people on a Southern State University campus?
Yeah, and as someone who thoroughly enjoyed the book, I just felt like maybe there were some things misunderstood. And a part of me was thinking like, you know, you're gonna be protective of your craft, right? You're gonna be protective of your craft, and you're gonna be like, hey, this is this, this is that, you know, you wanna stick up for what you've written. I've heard a lot of authors refer to their work as their baby. So I can understand you feeling some type of way about that critique, but I also am a visible Black woman who attended several colleges, and being the only Black person that I saw, but I had to go and find us. We were there, and I had to go find us, talk to somebody, you know, figure out where we're at. Like the experience of the main character and not seeing nobody Black other than her father and the guidance counselor wasn't representative of my experience and the other many Black people that I know who has also been to PWIs. And it's just, I think it does us a disservice when we set up stories like that and make it seem like there's no other Black people or Black communities or even outside of the community, right? I feel like if it's important to you, you make it happen. And if it's not, you don't. And I also feel like some people also have their social anxiety, you know, of being like, hey, I don't want to go and meet other people, whether they're Black or not. You just like people, no, I'm not peopling ever. So there's so many nuances that could have been explained a bit better to kind of understand fully that experience. And I think also probably having an author's note could have helped cleared up some of that, maybe, of being like, hey.
And she did have an author's note. And that Joker was like 6 pages long. So it's like you had all of this about the magic systems and all of this about that statue is on UNC Chapel Hill's campus. It was a gift from whatever senior class. Like, she does have a thorough author's note attending to
Agreed.
the content in the book, but not to the context of the character. And I think that's what was more necessary than anything, considering how she's presenting it. But yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to.
No. That's what I was getting to. It's like, I don't remember reading that in the author's note. You know, I just don't sleep on the author's note. Like, it can just really clear up some things. I don't know, but I also, the thing is, even in me enjoying the book, I can't help but being like, to certain things. So does that make sense? Like, even in enjoying it, I cannot help but also realize that there were things that was not flushed out.
Right.
Or at the very least, I just think when we're talking about, because I believe that it's important that you brought up like books being babies. Here's the things: kids act up, kids do bad, kids disappoint you, kids make mistakes, kids can be wrong. So your baby can be bad. No matter how much work you put into it, there can still be mistakes in that mug. And the fact that you are not allowing for that to be a thing, when here's the truth: as soon as you allow for your work to be published, you open up the door for anybody and their mother to critique your baby. So if you don't want that, you don't pursue that, for me, is the bottom line. Specifically, if you call yourself wanting to be a voice for other girls that look like you, which is what you do. Every time you're tweeting about your book and criticisms, you're constantly tweeting about how you wrote this book for Black girls. And whenever you hear criticism, but other people are praising you, it makes you feel better because these are the people you wrote it for, which makes sense. That's how it should be for you in your book. But it also means that if you wrote it for Black women, then the people you should be listening to are Black women. I really personally feel if I wrote a book for Black women, if I have Black women praising it and Black women critiquing it, I'm going to listen to both. I don't care about nobody else because the book wasn't for them. So if you white and you don't like it, oh well, I didn't write it for you. If you Hispanic and a man, if you whatever, I didn't write it for you and you don't like it, that's one thing. But if I wrote it for you and you are finding fault in it, you are finding issue, to me as an artist, the least I can do, as this is my service to you, is to listen. And I feel like that's where the issue is for me with these authors, is that it's hate. Criticism is not always hate. Just because someone is saying, and the crazy part is, like Bree critiquing it, a lot of people that I hear critiquing it still finished it, still rated it 3 or above, still are planning to read the second one, have still tweeted about it or shared it or any of these things. Every person I know who's critiqued it has done this at least once.
Yeah. Right.
I think we have to acknowledge that sometimes these critiques are us calling other Black people to step up higher. Because the truth of the matter is, it don't matter how many white people praise you, if the people you wrote it for are the ones who are suffering behind the things that you are doing, you didn't do a good job, period.
I also want to add, Britt,
small thing. Because I think that's tied to the Black reviewer's guilt, right? Is that you don't want to be seen as stepping on another Black author, another Black woman, like, no, I support you, it's all da. But it's like when my sister gets out of hand, I do, excuse me, what's going, do you need to talk? Like, what's up? So
I'm definitely that sister.
right,
I
like,
am definitely that sister.
what, like, if you have a sister, you do, like, am I my sister's keeper or not? So if
Period.
you're only saying sis culturally, or not even culturally, because culturally, you're your sister's keeper. If you're only saying it socially, right? If you're only saying it because it's cute, then you don't understand. I'm not talking about Tracy Dion and this necessarily specifically. If you're only saying sis or what's up, bro, whatever, like all of those familial handles, if you're only using them socially, then they don't mean anything. But if you're using them culturally, then you understand there's a sort of representational responsibility that you can't be out here doing whatever if it's gonna affect me and expect yourself not to be responsible to me. You're responsible to me and I'm responsible to you if what you're doing is affecting me and mine, is affecting us. And so when Black authors, period, don't want to get critique, as a writer, I understand being like, talk to me nicer, not at all. But the truth is, I do have to get feedback. Like, I do. And so I think there's a difference between, and I'm sure that Tracy Dion has gotten actual like hate, and you got to filter that out, 100%. Filter it out. None of that deserves to touch you. But there's a difference between hate and genuine criticism, where it's like, I think that story is beautifully written and structured. I do. I taught it in my class. If I didn't think that, I wouldn't have taught it. But I can also acknowledge that the representation of demographics seems like part of the fantasy, because it definitely doesn't seem realistic. And so when it gets to the point of my book is my baby and that's your answer to criticism, you're being selfish and you're stepping outside of what you said you wanted to do. If what you said you wanted to do was represent girls who look like you, because when I'm, like you said, Bree, when you're in a PWI setting, it's where are the people who look like me? I didn't see Bree ask that question one time. So it's just like, if it's girls who look like you, then you have to acknowledge that girls who look like you would also want to see girls who look like them. That's why you're writing this book. So why didn't you write girls that looks like them into the book as her friends?
Say that. You wrote the book because Black girls need to see themselves in books, and then you wrote a Black girl in a book that don't see herself in the real world. Make it make sense. I'm sorry.
That's just the question.
Make it make sense to me. Because like, the truth of the matter is, everybody on this screen has went to PWIs.
Yeah.
That's the truth. The truth is, I didn't go to a historically Black college. The truth is, I have been around white people a hell of a lot more than Black people as far as my education goes.
I can't stand that for us.
I was in college
I really can't stand that.
Legitimately, I was like, can I help you? I've never been in class with a Black person before. You are in college and I'm the first Black person you've ever been in a college with. Literally turned around and was like, I wish I could say the same about you, because I've been in school with white people since I was in elementary school. The truth is,
I wish you were new to me.
Right.
It's been me and that one girl that whole time.
Man.
But Bree, you were gonna say something.
It didn't happen to me until it didn't happen to me until a very small part of my life in high school, and then college really threw me off. I said, man, the whites are everywhere. But right. Like, that was my experience too. Like, it was like, oh, Black people, white people, because where I live, you do have better schools in white neighborhoods than Black. And because I tested very highly, my grandmother had to choose to not put me in school with majority Black people and move me to a school that was 30 minutes away from the house so I could get a better education. Let's not talk about gerrymandering and district and all that racism, but that plays a part in it. I did want to come back, and I hope that y'all can understand me and just follow with me. Let's go back to Shay's definition of gatekeeping. We don't need to rehash it. She already said it. It's that. So while we're talking about this book of this author that we are talking about, I want to continue that, because not acknowledging the criticism or the feedback that you're getting that has good points kind of leads to publishing being like, okay, we're going to continue to do these stories. We're going to continue to spread these stories, give these stories light, because you're fitting the framework of the popularity that is surrounded by the gatekeeping, if that makes sense. It's like you're being like, I'm going to write this story that the publishers are going to like, further like instilling that these stories are okay and that only these stories matter, when that's not the truth, right? We know that. Going further, it kind of read to me, and I do not mean no shade. I'm talking not a bit of shade, and y'all know me. I don't mean no shade in what I'm saying, but I get tired. I get tired as a Black woman who also went to a PWI to hear other Black women, specifically Black women who are my color and darker than me, to kind of set up stories or justify things that can be hurtful to other Black women underneath the bridge of, Black people didn't like me. And that's kind of like what I was getting, some of that energy of like, Black people didn't want to talk to me. Well, Black people didn't want to do this, and Black people, and to feed into that narrative of generalizing and making Black people monolithic, is making you also adhere to the narratives of the oppressors. So it's like, why do we continue to do that? I do understand like a lot of tweets I saw by this author of being like, this is my experience and I didn't see any Black people. And it's like, did you look for Black people? Were you thinking like, oh, I'm maybe not Black enough? That's the thing that we all get told ourselves, but not every Black person that you meet is going to give you that energy. So as much as you're doing it for the white gaze, give Black people that grace as well. I hope I'm making sense.
No, you're making perfect sense. And I kind of want to piggyback off of this, because if we're being honest, like, so all of us here come from 2 Black parents, right? All of us here, college educated, everything like that, have been both in predominantly Black schools, like before college, and, predominantly white schools for college, right? How many of us have heard in some form that we talk white or act white? I don't think none of us would not raise our hands. And we, for the most part in Booktube, are some of the Blackest people as far as how we present and how we come forth in our Blackness.
But to my New Orleans family, your girl is white. She is
right.
White.
So when people are like, Black people didn't like me, or Black people, every Black person has felt that at one point in time. So to act like you're the only Black person to feel this way is victimization and victimhood, that you are allowing yourself to live in your trauma and stay in. So we need to talk about that.
Right.
Second of all, let's talk about how you were probably under 21 in any of this time that you're referring to. So while you're holding the entire Black population to how children act, will never make sense to me, because we know that at 19, 18, 17, 16, 21, 25, you still don't know enough about the world and how to move, or the system of white supremacy and how it works in this country and how anti-Blackness moves, to not understand that there are things that are gonna happen, period.
And I think also we need to also recognize that being in predominantly white spaces, sometimes that anti-Blackness seep into you, that white supremacy seep into you, and then your proximity to whiteness make you feel some type of way about your proximity to Blackness.
Come on now.
So we have to I have felt that way.
Teacher.
I ain't gonna lie to you on Beyonce's internet. I have even felt that way. There was one point when I was proud when somebody said, you are like those Blacks. Am I there now? No, but I've been there. So I feel like people think that they need to be like just
militant
like what?
and
Militant,
mad and loud and
militant.
angry
Right,
and
I
that type of
feel
black person.
right.
And it's like,
Thank
no,
you. No,
no,
I
that's
just
not
need
it.
people
That's
to-
not what we're asking for. That's not what
No.
we're expecting. But
No.
what we are expecting is honesty. What we are expecting is reflection. What we are expecting is growth and improvement, right? Because like I wouldn't feel any type of way if you took this criticism and grew from it. Because the book is already out there. You ain't gonna change it. Right? But it's what are you doing in the next one? So if in book 2, Bree is talking to black people, I'm gonna feel like you learned your lesson. If book 2, we still don't got black people, this is something you are doing and you need to decide why you're doing it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Man,
What were you gonna
I
say?
think that's the end of our talk. Thank y'all
No.
for being with us.
My bad. I'm so sorry.
I mean, I'm just saying, and I do apologize if I went on a tangent and y'all were like, what is this girl talking about? So I do.
No, that's where we were going. Yeah, no, you had
It got me fired up. So like
That's
no,
literally
like,
why I did a laughing, crying face, because as soon as you said the thing about black people saying that other black people were mean to them, I knew Shay was gonna go off.
It makes me
I
so
don't like
mad.
that narrative because it's like
Right.
you are participating in the white man shenanigans.
And for me, it's
Like,
like, why are you acting like white people ain't always been mean to you? Like, that's what I
Okay,
don't
Shay,
understand.
Shay, get
Like,
out of
it's
my
not
mouth.
like
Get out
black
of my
people
mouth.
are mean to you and then white people are just always nice and only black people. Like, nah, they both mean if that's what you're trying to, like, tell the truth.
Shay,
Like,
get
tell
out
the
of my
truth and
mouth.
shame the devil for me.
Not out of my mouth.
Get out of my mouth, because what I was gonna say that I didn't say, but since you already said it, I'm gonna say it. What I was gonna say is being like, so you're saying black people are mean to me, but you're still conversing with white folks who most of them that you've met have been racist?
Right, because that's the
So
other
it's
part.
okay
That's the
to
other part of
engage
the
with them,
story.
but to not engage with black folks? So you look at
Right.
them as individuals, but then you group black folks?
It makes no sense.
And I'm
Right,
not
'cause
saying
the
this is
truth
what I'm not saying this is what this author is doing. I'm just saying that's what it was giving energy. And I was like, it's just something to think about. Like I can give criticism to something and still fuck with the book. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I like the book.
Yeah.
But still I'm like, there is things that need to be discussed in addition to liking the book. And I probably already talked about my black guilt, and I'm going to use this book as an example, but you know, this is to follow up on what we talked about last month.
Yeah. Shay, what were you
No,
saying?
because I think it's important because like when in that tweet thread, she was like, black people aren't monolithic. And it was like, yeah, but you don't see how your writing is participating in this visual monolithic view of black people. Because we're seeing that there's like literally publishing shows there's 2 types of black people. Black girls that don't date black dudes. Like that's a category of black characters.
That's most of them, yes.
That's most of them. Like that's a category. And then black people that go through hell. Like those are the 2 types of characters. Black characters that date white people and black characters that go through hell. There's no in between. Like your character does one of the 2.
Unfortunate.
The
And a lot
only
of
person
times,
I know
though,
who don't is Elizabeth Acevedo.
a lot of times though, you're still gonna get both. Like you're gonna get a black girl who is not surrounded by her community, and also you put her through the ringer. And I'm talking about Knives Out and everything. Like because in Legendborn, because I don't see the point of us not saying the name of the author in the book. We've already basically identified it. In Legendborn, Bree does go through a lot. She loses her mother. She is dealing with what did she say was a traumatic grief syndrome. Like she goes to this school. She has this guilt already about the fact that she was fighting with her mother when her mother died. She has this want to like walk in her mother's footsteps, feeling sort of unworthy to do it. And then she goes to this school, sees a whole demon. That can mess with you. Just if that was the whole book, she saw a demon, the end. We've had a whole adventure right there. But she sees a demon. goes into this order that is white as the Anglo is Saxon. It's white as heck. And then she's the only, and then I don't care what anybody says, okay? Let it be known here and today. Brittwriterly, sell slander squad. Argue with your auntie. I don't care.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing. I'm gonna never respect you for making a love interest racist.
I'm never gonna get over the fact that when she was actually feeling powerful, when she really felt like she had checked him, his response was, I will rip your tongue out of your head. Nothing is going to get over that for me. I don't care how cute he is. I don't care.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Bodily, you're turning bodily. Why would he be a love interest? I don't care what his job is. Some people with certain jobs, you can't date them. Sorry, the job is too stressful. You can't be in relation to him. That's it.
Not the job is too stressful.
That should be the lesson. Because that was the whole, oh, he's just stressed. He's the king's man. All this pressure's on him. Then you can't date that man. Because when he hits you, the answer's got to be his job is stressful. Do you see how we're setting up very toxic relationship standards? She should not be with self. But that's what everyone is shipping. And I'm just like, listen, I love a good ship war. I do. I'm okay with it. But it's when it's the representation of each person that concerns me. Ethically, I can't get behind Sel. He threatened her multiple times, was verbally abusive multiple times, endangered her life multiple times.
Truth be told, I can't do either of them, but that's me.
Listen, the thing is, Nick is a nice guy. I don't trust nice guys. Nice guys be wanting stuff. And when you don't give them what they want, they turn. I don't trust nice guys.
I don't trust his family. I'm going on a tangent. This is my personal issue with me dating a white man. I can love you, but I don't know if grandma gonna get the urge to call me a nigga at the dinner table. And grandma gonna get these hands because grandma, grandpa, and your
everybody's an adult in my book. I don't care how much adult you
like. No, what you not gonna do is start being like, oh, we should have a plantation party. I don't call it a reflex. And now it's just, there's just certain things I think about. Like, I'm not coming at anybody for who they date, but that's just one thing I think about all the time.
It's not
like, I'm not just dating you. I'm dating your whole family, bruh. Your entire family. Just like you dating my family.
I hate when people say that. When they're like, you don't marry the family, you marry the person. You marry
the family.
You're lying.
Lies, garbage,
you are lying.
Because
and y'all who act like you don't look at a family, bruh, you got kids that most people want kids. Bringing kids into this world with messed up families and y'all not acknowledging that?
You're cursing them.
You are, because kids feel that. I don't get to spend time with cousins, or I can't spend time with my grandparents, or when I do, they're racist. That messes with children.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, it's like, grandpa might want to get froggy at the family picnic, and then I'm a leaper. Call me Leapiana.
Y'all make me fall out of my chair, please.
The
chair is high off the ground.
The way I was talking to Deidre, and I was like, listen, y'all, it would take God in a burning bush audibly telling me that this is the Caucasian man that he picked for me, and then I'm still going to pick a fleece from a sheep and bringing it and being like, hey, is it wet? Because I don't think that was you, guy. I mean, I saw the burning bush and I heard the voice, but you can't mean this for me.
A burning bush.
Because it's a cross that I don't want to bear. I don't want those problems.
It's a lot.
I don't want that in my life. The truth is, it's hard enough to be Black. I don't want to have to be Black and navigate a Caucasian person's feelings because I'm married to them or they're in my family. I don't want them problems.
I mean, for me, I realized this when one of my closest friends, she's white, her family's white, and her family is awesome. They're like my second family. When they had a party, they invited their friends, and their friends was racist. And I was like, I had a miserable time. So it's just like, I'm not even thinking about what you could say. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about your
Everybody around
family, your
you.
cousins, your
Yes.
childhood best friend.
Oh,
Because I'm gonna be Leapiana in these streets. I'm
Right.
telling you, I'm gonna be Leapiana in these streets
And the
because
truth
look,
is-
my reparations got to be paid somehow.
hello, somewhere.
Right.
Someone gotta cash that
Somewhere.
check.
Right.
And I just, it's just gonna be difficult. And I know that even if I dated a man of color, there's anti-blackness there. There's
Yes.
anti-blackness in
Everywhere.
black men.
Right.
So
if I gotta work
understand.
through that in my relationship with a black man, I'm sure not signing up for no more work with somebody else. Let me just tell you, I'm not.
There's just things I have to consider. And I already had a struggle life. I don't
Right. Right. I think about the issues I have with my family already is a struggle. So I'm not marrying into another family with more family struggles for my kids than I have no family. I'm not doing that.
Not interested.
I've already been on the seat behind the bus driver on the struggle bus. And now I gotta get up on yours. You don't put me in the back.
Can't do it.
Now I gotta
But
be
see-
Rosa Parks of your family. Now I gotta sit up and get in the front.
Because you will be a
I don't
whole
like it.
activist and advocate for yourself.
Right.
25
And here's the truth. The
I'm not
first
interested.
time that
Yeah.
you choose any one of them
Over
over
me, we're done.
we're done.
We are so done.
The first time you try to, well, I think you misunderstood, or I don't think you, well, maybe you should look at it. Devil's advocate my ass.
I hate it when people use
Devil's
devil's
advocate my
advocacy.
behind.
You're behind.
Devil's advocate my behind. We're
Oh
not
my
doing
God, y'all. I cannot stand. Oh my
Feeling
God,
it.
y'all done got me fired. I
It's rising in
cannot
her.
stand when people use devil advocate. For what? Why do I need a devil?
Why does the devil need an advocate? Why do he need friends? Why? Why does he need someone to speak up for him? The devil is loud. He be doing whatever he wants. He don't need no help from nobody. Why are you trying to be his amen corner? I don't understand.
To me, when especially use devil advocacy in an argument with me, what I'm hearing is shut up, black girl. That's what I'm hearing.
That's
hearing
what they're
is
saying.
silence yourself. What I'm hearing is your voice doesn't matter. What I'm hearing is you're overreacting about a real experience that has affected not only me, but my DNA because of the other black women who came before me.
All the things. All the things.
I'm saying, you can devil advocate because I'm a leap for you, Leapiana. We're gonna be in it. Me and you.
Well, see if the devil advocates for you
Bree's
after
been
I whoop
triggered.
your tail. Like, is he here?
I just really feel
You
like
might need
that
to
just hit a
advocate now,
nerve.
baby.
That just hit a nerve because I hate it. I'm sitting here telling you that your grandma just talked about, what do you think about cotton? And I come and talk to you, you're like, grandma just told me what I think about cotton. She's old. She can only get these hands as well.
Right.
What?
But you know what? The reason this is not tangential, the reason this is completely on part, because even Legend Born was well received by Booktube, but Booktube didn't necessarily have these conversations. So that's part of, and Bree, you brought that up and once you went through the dictionary definition of Booktube, it also gets into censure. You're not just putting forward a formula of what can be put forth, but you have a certain code of conduct, a sort of choreography with how we can engage with what's given. So even when we get a book like Legend Born or The Only Black Girl, which can open up a conversation about a single Black person in white spaces, the conversation gets watered down to just taking the book at face value. It's not received as satire. It's not received as irony. It's just taken completely as it is. And dare a Black person to say anything, and then we're contending with Black reviewers' guilt. Once again, I don't want to step on this Black woman, get your coin, sis, da-da-da-da-da, but you can't be your sister's keeper and pull her up to the corner and be like, listen here, when I talk to my friends about interracial dating, tears are shed. People are triggered, voices are raised, and I didn't see that in this Black girl at all.
Right.
But then again,
that's the thing.
We have people who want to be like, oh, let me just do the devil advocacy. Or they're just like, but we are gatekeeping.
Right,
But
and
I
that's what
feel
her
like-
tweet was, and that's what bothers me.
Then we are gatekeeping.
We're
But
the
I also
gatekeepers
want to
'cause
say
we're not
this.
okay with it.
I
Go
also
ahead.
want to say this. I'm trying not to curse, Lord. God's still
Help her.
working on you.
Help her. Take your time.
Every person of color on this planet can gatekeep. But as soon as Black people want to gatekeep,
Y'all
it
got
is
issues with it.
Where's my
a
fan?
goddamn problem. When I truly believe there are things within Black communities around the world, throughout the diaspora, that most definitely should be gatekeeped. And that's on Period, that's on Mary, that's on her lambs, that's on Jacob, that's on whomever. I just feel like when we see women from India wearing a sari, we like, I see you, sis. If a white woman or Black woman wear a sari, the internet is going wild. But anybody underneath the sun can have certain braids in their hair. They can sis this, sis that. What we not gonna do? They can have the big ass hoops. They can just be out here really making caricatures of us, really co-opting off of our culture. And then we're supposed to accept it as pop culture? We're supposed to accept this as pop culture and be okay with us being likable only when it's of convenience? Are you kidding me? So absolutely, gatekeep. Absolutely. Yeah, do that. Do that.
I'm right there with you.
100%.
Because here's the truth. If we gatekeep, we probably wouldn't have lost the Black Panthers in the way that we did.
Therefore, that gatekeeping would have served us well.
Right.
Still can. Let's get ahead of this thing. We can gatekeep stuff.
Is all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And here's the thing. So I am going to give this to Britt so that she can link it. It's a conversation, and I want to say it's like in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's an interview, and it's a Black historian, a doctor, and he's talking about why there was never a successful slave revolt. And it was because there was a reward for Black people that snitched on other Black people. There was a reward for it. So every time there was someone who got something to gain by turning on their own people. And we saw it. He goes on to talk about how we see it and things that continue to happen, right? Like that's how we see Judas and the Black Messiah. A Black person gets in it and it goes that way. Like that's how we see the fall of Malcolm X. Like that's how we see all these things, because the only person they know will get close to these people are people that look like us. Why? Because we're naturally going to be suspicious of somebody else trying to get into our business.
Right.
And when I watched that and I saw that and I was like, and it was, the conversation was about why we need to close ranks, why we need to pull in.
Close the whole gate.
For sure.
Close the whole gate, lock it down.
Because we need to stop inviting mugs to the cookout.
Stop it! No more cookouts.
I will say, I also am, I have said that, on the internet, and then I said, oh, hell no, I had to check myself. I ain't invite nobody to the cookout.
No,
okay,
no,
don't be inviting folks to the cookout.
All my cookout passes, all of them, I need them back.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against the people I gave them to, because when I said it, I meant it. And what I'm saying now is I realize that we need safe spaces. And by allowing you into that safe space, I revoke the safeness of it. And that's my bad, not yours. That's on me. That's on me. I am old enough to realize that is something that I did, because I was like, no, this is my way of showing that you understand and you're down. And here's accountability. You will never understand no matter how down you are. And that's totally fine.
Come on, accountability. Amen.
Yeah. Because if we can, I think all of us on this screen read Wings of Ebony, and most people in the chat too, maybe we read it with us for quite some time. We all felt away when Rue invited Bree into Yayo P. We were all like,
the moment Rue was like, I'm going to invite. I said your
I'm gonna have to head out because why?
I said your ancestors literally have fought.
I've been hiding here.
Hiding here. And you said, let's bring a white person here?
Made no sense.
Are you kidding me? What this is back to what we said earlier. There are certain effects that doesn't keep us in mind when we have spent too many time on our proximity to whiteness.
And she was only around white people for a year.
Out of the hood,
Exactly.
A year. You were around white people for a year. And that 1 year changed the 16 prior.
Also part of the fantasy for me.
If
But
she
go ahead,
came
Bree.
straight out of the hood, she'd have been like,
Right.
I want Sarah up in this joint. Who the hell?
Right.
Sarah ain't coming up in here.
So my thing is, we all felt that way when we all felt that way when we heard her say she's gonna invite Bree into Yayo Peak. Cookout's the same way. The cookout, the hair salon, these discrete places of Black social life. I'm getting a little theoretical. These places where Black people gather.
Amen.
And don't have to code switch, don't have to translate, can just speak how they speak, come as you are. Because the thing about the safe spaces is these non-monolithic Black folks, we can all come as we are. When I go to the hair salon, my beautician asked me about my dissertation. I don't have to code switch for her. I can be Whitley and everyone knows I'm Whitley and it's fine. They're not mean to me because of it. We're grown. Right. So the same one who, girl, she's gonna be at the club every night, whatever. We can have a conversation at the cookout, at the hair salon. It's fine. That's why the spaces are safe, because we can exist in our multiplicity there. And when we invite people into that, just because Rue trusted Bree does not mean any other Gazoni did. They didn't. So just because we may trust these white friends that we have, that's fine, but I don't get to bring you into a communal safe space because of how I feel about you.
Exactly.
That's not how community works. Community is for all. And the truth is, to bring in the conversation about this Judas and Black Messiah model, the truth is about gatekeeping, and we can bring Legend Born into this too, and Tracy Dion and Black writers in general. The truth is, everybody does not want to be part of the revolution. Everybody can't be a part of the revolution, and everybody's freedom dreams are not the same. It doesn't matter if you are kinfolk, skinfolk, or anything else. It really doesn't. Everyone does not have the same political allegiances or agenda. Full stop. So when it comes to, oh, you're making Blackness be a monolith. No, my freedom dream just don't exist. My freedom dream does not include a Black girl being verbally and physically threatened. It would never. It would never, without allowing her to punch a hole through his head. Like, if you want to set up a scenario for her to react in kind, I'm here for it. Say whatever you want to, that's gonna be your last words. But she just has to eat that. And then at the end of the book, you still got white folks talking to her crazy, and she has to have her Asian best friend have her back. Now, listen, hear me well. Have whatever best friends you want to have. But to me, that was just the final straw. I'm not gonna lie about it.
I can't stand that best friend. I can't.
She's not a good friend. Okay, like
trash. I want to go back to agenda of what you just said. Even in bringing other Black folks to the cookout, we also need to understand some nuances there. One, it's really all Black folks ain't all skin folk, all kin folk ain't skin folk. And we need to know that the skin folk that get invited know that you are in a safe place. And this is not an opportunity for you to go tell other people what's going on in this circle.
Right.
In this gathering.
Right.
Because I'm seeing that a lot.
The truth is, Black or white, we're still particular about who comes to the cookout.
Period.
If we're being honest, because
every
Black person I know don't show up to my cookouts.
And you don't eat everything that every Black person that does come to the cookout makes.
Right.
Everyone who's there knows who's there. You know whose chicken that is. We don't eat her chicken, but we let her bring it. You know, there are nuances and we know what they are. She gonna bring that pound cake and we know that hers is better.
In New Orleans, we know who bought the red sauce, and that's on period. Cause we ain't got time for folks.
So there are just nuances, and that's part of the discussion around like Black reviewers' guilt, is feeling like your review is not going to be received for the nuanced feedback that it is, for the nuanced review that it is, that you could have a heap of praise and the one thing you say that you don't like, oh my gosh, it's not a monologue, like all these different things. And what's ironic is people, and listen, if I'm acknowledging that I'm going forwardly, and I'm acknowledging that I may sound elitist. Some people on these doggone apps be using words they do not fully understand.
Oh, for sure.
TikTok.
The way y'all be jumping on these words, bruh. We've seen people make skits about it. We've seen TikToks of people about, you know, and this tangentially, and when we're talking about and the back and forth in which I am talking about the liberation of like we've seen people make jokes about how people be on these apps talking about stuff they don't know nothing about.
I have no idea. Did not do the reading.
And let me tell you, a friend of mine, she was like, Bree, why are we the same person? We both were like, hey, do you realize that there needs to be more discussion about decolonization? Because people just be throwing that out. I'd be like,
do y'all know what that means?
Do you know? Or like, there's just so many things that I just be like, y'all, I get I want to be down.
Truly.
But but also, listening, active listening. Let's practice that. Let's practice self-reflection. Let's practice, you ain't got to say or respond to everything.
It's true.
You are not the smartest person, the most capable person. Humble yourself. Humble yourself on Beyonce's internet.
And the other thing though is, if I could just add to that, humble yourself. And one of my colleagues here, she tweeted something and I literally was like, and this is a woman who's like, she's good and grown, has a husband, got 3 children, like is coming back to grad school and getting a PhD in performance studies. She's a poet, award-winning children's book author, was already teaching as a professor. Like she didn't really need to come back, but she did for her education. Very humble. She was taking her comprehensive exams, which can be very traumatizing.
Very, I hear.
Taking her comprehensive exams, and she just tweeted this one thing, and all she said was, it can be humbling without being crumbling. And I think, and I don't think that she meant it towards necessarily the internet, but I think that's a direct, to me, I receive it, and I launch it now as a direct critique of cancel culture. We're getting out of the habit of being able. We are losing the ability to have conversations with people who don't agree with us. Too many of us are in Twitter in these niches and silos where everyone agrees with you anyway. But the minute that someone doesn't agree with you, you're calling them everything but a child of God. You're accusing them of being bigoted. And it's just like, because y'all don't have the same belief systems and values does not make someone a bigot.
Right.
But you don't think anyone's going to challenge you on that. So you'll just attack that person's character because of their beliefs. When they are not doing anything to impede your lifestyle, they're just saying they don't agree with it.
I think
whatever it is. So I'm just like, if it can't be a conversation, then why mention it?
Listen,
if we're not going to talk about how the words should be used and using the same vocabulary, then why are we launching these words when everyone's using them differently?
Right.
Therapeutically, I try to teach, not teach. That's not it. I try to remind everyone that I see as a therapist of like, look, the human experience is the gray area. It's exploring that gray area, is trying to figure out that so many things in our lives contain nuance and multifaceted levels, levels that even we cannot understand because we don't understand every individual experience of being human. Therefore, approaching things black and white, it's not helpful. There are some things that it's like, no, you should not ever rape children.
Right.
That is black and white. Right. You get what I'm saying? But there are, most things are not. The human experience is not. So for you to just be like, oh, this person said one thing, now that whole person being is trash.
Right.
The whole person, and I joke all the time, trash, 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 as a joking thing. But you know that there's also reflection I need to do on that, right? That's
really the internet energy, though. Everything is trash. Like, we're just ready to throw entire people away. And I'm just like, what's communal about that? Right. Like, why are we not in the practice of calling people in instead of calling them out? How are you going to be able to recuperate that person?
Yeah.
Well, I remember having the Twitter conversation about hair, and it going to the hairstylist being a luxury and being called ableist and anti-black and all this other stuff, because the truth of the matter is some of y'all don't understand that going to a hair salon to get your hair done is considered a luxury for quite a few people.
And I still do it, but I acknowledge it as a luxury.
Right. And so to act like, it is, maybe for you, it's a necessity, right? But you have to acknowledge that there's a place of privilege for you to even consider it a necessity.
Right. Because if you don't have the money, if you're choosing between bundles of hair or getting your scalped or whatever and food, then you can recognize that one of those things has to happen for life and one of those things doesn't.
Right.
You can just stay in tonight, really.
If it wasn't a luxury, there would not be as many Black women in the world who went to either YouTube University or somebody else they known and was taught how to do their own hair. Right. Because for Black women, getting our hair done is hundreds of dollars. That's different from going in, get a little trim and get a color. And I understand it depends on which salon you go to. And, you know, women with straighter hair definitely can spend that as well. But man, we are in there. It's not only money, it's time. You have to take off of work to go, or off from school. It's 10 hours you up in that joint. So there's just so many things that attach to the privilege of going to a salon. And to not even acknowledge that, like, we're just out here just saying we're not going to acknowledge or hold ourselves accountable for anything. Also, side note, I really need to reflect on my uses of trash, and I'm going to try to work on that.
Okay, we'll hold you to that.
Thank you.
But to Shay's point of saying that going to a salon is a privilege. Oh, you're ableist. That's what I'm talking about. What is ableist? What is ableism? If you can give me a definition, I won't hold you. That's a lie. Give me a definition. I'm gonna answer, and then I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question. If you can answer a follow-up question, I'm not gonna hold you.
Right.
But the truth is, we got too many Twitter demics who only feel held to give a 280 character dissertation, and that's not really how that works. So and that's why I had this whole, like, within the discourse series on my channel, because we use words like, oh, these politics of respectability, like that didn't come from someone's thought and exist within a context. Evelyn Brooks Higginbotham talking about politics of respectability for Black women in the Baptist church movement in 1880 to 1920. If you can gloss that for me and explain how that's functioning now, I'm not going to hold you. But most people don't even know that she came up with that term. And that's my issue. You didn't do the reading, but you want to read somebody? You didn't even read.
Right.
But we want to use these words that condemn people, and you don't know what those words mean, really, structurally. You just saying, on the area of ability, you said something I didn't like, and so you're ableist. That's what you mean. That's what you mean. That's not what that word means. And that's dishonest. And it gets my goat every time.
And I think the matter is that is a form of gatekeeping, right? Because what y'all do is y'all use these big words and you're using them
Weapons.
wrong.
Yep.
And you're using them as weapons so that other people feel like they don't have a voice to stand on to come back with you, because they know what these words mean, and they're not trying to use them because they know they don't understand them. And so now you're using these words and this vocabulary as a way to show whose voice needs to be heard and who doesn't. That's another reason it bothers me.
Hold up, Shay. Going back to when I did a video talking about the difference between, you already know where I'm going, content warnings and trigger warnings. Be careful what y'all saying out here in these streets.
Right.
Be careful what y'all saying out, because if you knew what a trigger was,
y'all wouldn't use that word so willy-nilly.
So just say content. There's some things in here that might make you feel some way.
Right.
But even saying the word trigger can cause a trigger sometimes. So you want to kind of be, because people can be like, oh, bracing themselves, and their body is not, once you in it, your amygdala ain't gonna stop. Your amygdala gonna keep going. It's fight, flight, freeze, fawn. That's it. Period. So I just, Maya Angelou, I always go back to this same quote, because Maya Angelou said, one day we'll know the magnitude of words. And I'm just waiting.
Right.
I'm just waiting on that.
One day.
Words is what keep us where we are, right? Because like the words that are in the Constitution, the words that are in the law, these words that we choose, we are very specific about as a country. So why as Black people wouldn't we be specific?
I think people are hoping that these words are getting them closer to specificity, and they can, but you have to know the discourse around them. Seriously, you cannot just be using words that sound like they are, you cannot be using these words as categories. Like you're talking about ableism to signal discussions about ability. That's not what that word exists for. You're talking about bigotry to signal a difference in a spectrum of moral disagreements. That's not what that word is there for either. And you're talking about violence to signal discomfort. That's not, I'm so sick of that word being misused. Well, I find that violent. How are you harmed?
Right.
Because in that way, you're also censoring what people can say to you. You can just cry violence and you shut down an entire conversation because you felt uncomfortable, when we know that discomfort sometimes signals that you don't have the stamina that you should to stand in a conversation and work yourself out. But we use these words to tap out and get out of jail free card, no one can talk to me. And then the conversation can't move forward. So we always come back to this same level of conversation and we never get before it because of these words that help me get to these specific safe spaces where I feel like I'm cool instead of actually being part of a discourse.
And overusing of certain words can actually diminish a person's experience with that word.
The way people use bully, they were bullying me. Like, I don't think y'all understand what bullying is sometimes. Just because somebody disagree with you. Just as someone
I'm talking about vilifying disagreeing on the, we can disagree. We three disagree on this collaboration all the time. We were talking about what we're going to do today an hour and a half ago, and all three of us had three different interpretations of this prompt. We were like, oh, that what you got?
You know what? I'm gonna fight them in the street.
Right? That's what I mean. Like, we're losing the ability to have conversations, but we don't all agree. We're losing the ability to even stay calm while having that conversation. It's not always that deep. It's just not. Because the bottom line is, you can tell me God isn't real all you want to. I don't believe you. God is real. And I don't have to say God is real to me. God is real in my reality. Who am I, me, or am I 5 different people? God is real. I don't need to put a caveat on that. And so when we have conversations where, oh, well, they were talking, did they pay your light bill that day? Did they prevent your light bill from being paid? Or could you have a conversation where you're saying, okay, you don't think God is real. Let me tell you how he's moved in my life. I would love to have that conversation, and it doesn't bother me. But if you can't have a conversation about someone disagreeing with you, then there's a way to exit that conversation without diminishing that person's personhood, that individual's personhood,
Right.
because they don't agree with you. Because if you get to have a human experience, so do they. You don't know what believing in God, you don't know what believing in whatever, family, friends, whoever, you don't know what that has gotten them through. You don't get to speak against that. Or you can have a conversation with it where you're saying, that wasn't my experience, here's mine. But my thing is, I feel like we're getting to a place where we only acknowledge certain people as having a human experience. And it's not even just all white people anymore.
Certain
Right,
experience.
not it's certain experiences for sure. Because I like when you were talking, one thing that when you were talking about respectability, I was thinking back to the story and just different stories, and one really like, because I haven't read Legendborn, but for the other Black girl, I was like, I love it how people talk about respectability without bringing up the fact that in these stories where we allow white people to get away with racist things is a form of neo-respectability that we're doing in pop culture and literature. Like, there's a reason why these characters are so acceptable. There's a reason why you are writing things that don't ruffle people's feathers, right? Because that's what y'all's interpretation of respectability is it's not getting under people's skin. And it's like, are you not realizing that y'all are doing the same thing? And for me, when the conversation of the book is my baby and the critiquing of it and whatnot, we have to acknowledge as Americans, as humans, that literature impacts real life.
And that's always been the case.
Like, that's always been a thing. So you can't just be like, this is just my thing and it exists to me and it's just this. Like, no, you are putting something out into the world that has a direct effect on people that look like you.
Right. And just because you read a little blurb that says all these characters and everything, it's fictional, don't mean it didn't come from somewhere.
It did.
Because that's the number one thing y'all like to say when we talk about it. Y'all don't be like, these are fictional characters, so I don't get mad. No, this is my real life experience. I lived this, and now you're hurting my feelings because you're talking about my life. I thought it was
fictitious.
You're saying my experience is wrong. I thought y'all have a whole paragraph about how it ain't real. So again, the truth is,
I don't know if I got the skin to be an author. I'm already.
But here's the thing, though. That's why I'm saying I'm sure she got legitimate hate that she had to block out, and this is probably fatigue of blocking that out of her. Just like, so I get it as that, and I'm saying as a writer and an actress, both of those crafts call you to be people watchers, to be observers of humanity. So you're watching. So to say it doesn't come from anything, it doesn't mean anything, and she didn't say that, but we're not only talking about her. To say that is dishonest, because you know that you came to understand so-and-so's character, so-and-so's character, and so-and-so's character from reading books, from looking at your cousins, or from looking at yourself. You know that those came from somewhere, even if they are versions of those people. So saying they're fictitious so you don't get sued because someone says you're talking about them, sure, I get that, but let's not get it twisted. You know that you observed these things, or, and this is the uncomfortable reality, you observed those things, or you wish you had observed those things, and that's part of your fantasy.
There's the only two things when writing. Either you saw it or you want to see it. Like, those are the only two ways you come up with stories.
So then if being surrounded by white people, and this is for any author who does this in any genre, if being surrounded by white people is part of your fantasy, just say that. Don't feel any need to talk about monoliths, to talk about your experience, to talk about, if that may be true. And also, if you're just more comfortable around white people, next time say that instead of Black people bullied me. Tell the truth about yourself instead of scapegoating us.
Right.
Because rather than take the responsibility for a truth that if you were comfortable with it, you would say it. So clearly you're uncomfortable with the fact that your fantasy includes an overabundance of white people. And so you're scapegoating Black people. And multiple Black authors have said this.
Multiple.
So just instead of scapegoating Black people next time and saying that we bullied you, or as if you didn't have bullies across the spectrum and bullies don't exist in everywhere, instead of scapegoating Black people, why don't you just lay yourself on the altar? Because we're so tired of being the excuse for why that book was trash in representation.
The part that don't make sense to me is it's always a predominantly white place. So in order for you to interact with bullies, there gonna have to be some white ones. Like, it don't make sense the way that y'all like act like these things aren't a thing, right? Like, and then here's my thing. If you are in a predominantly white situation, right, and you feel that you have to date somebody that's white because there's not enough Black people, don't you think the other Black people think that way too?
Literally, I was like, how are you getting bullied in predominantly white spaces by Black people who probably have the exact same experience as you? I don't get it. Because those were my friends. Like, we were friends. And even if we weren't friends, absolute solidarity.
All the time. Was
Even
in
the
a
ones
place
I
with
didn't like,
500
like,
students.
Even if I
Four
don't
of us
mess
were
with
Black.
you like that, when something happens, we're gonna be in the same space.
Right. They bet not say nothing to you.
Because listen, when this person on the campus, when I was a student, I was on a campus, and this person was like, hey, we're gonna do like open mic night. He decided to, this white man decided to dress like he was a Black man, stereotypically, and sang a Nelly song, and it had about 1,100 niggas in it. And he was N-word this, N-word that. All we know, one person got a call. Hey, y'all know this dude in here? We swarmed up. I'm talking about mugs who didn't even like each other was like, we need to have a conversation, sir, about what you just did. Then this man said we tried to attack him. Of course we did. No, we want to have a conversation about why you thought that was okay in 2011. That's what we want to have a conversation about this. Because you thought, and all the white people are like, yeah, he's so cool. Is he? Is he cool? Is he? So even if we didn't like each other, on site was still on site. And on site doesn't always mean physical violence, right. By the way.
It did have a situation with Black people in college who were trying to bully me. And we had a racial situation. And regardless of us being bully person and whatnot, everybody was like, what we're not going to do is accept this. We may have our own issues within our own community that we're dealing with and we don't fit together. But what we're not going to do is be in this place where all of them outnumber us and they're doing these things and we sit here and leave you out here by yourself. That's what we're not going to do. Because the truth of the matter is, they not going to come for all of us.
And it's times like that, side note, where being the scary tall Black woman comes to my defense. Because who gonna check me? You gonna come up to my 6'1" ass and check me? Like, what? You gonna come and check me? Really? You got that? Okay.
I like, as much as there were things about being dark skinned that I did not like growing up, I will say being dark skinned definitely makes people try you less.
Yes. You're not gonna check me. You're not gonna check me. That's what you're not gonna do.
I'm little. I know I'm little, but you definitely try me less than you would if I was lighter. And I've seen it.
Oh, I've
had a boyfriend that was over 6 feet tall. That's high yellow. They'll try him before they'll try me.
I'm just giggling that she said high yellow.
She did say high yellow.
Yes. Bruh, y'all, his siblings used to call him white boy. That's how high yellow.
Oh, man.
Like, you would think, like, he's had people ask if he was mixed. No, both of my parents are Black. That's him. But for real, like, I'm sorry. Was that triggering? I said high yellow. I'm sorry.
No one's ever called me high yellow that I remember. That's when my short-term memory loss comes into handy.
I know it's not a term that's used now.
What? High
I
yellow.
thought I read somewhere that it wasn't appropriate, but I don't remember where I read it.
I mean, you're mostly gonna hear like older
Right,
Black
it's like a
people
country
say high
term,
yellow.
right?
Yeah, it's not really in heavy rotation.
Right.
It's not just light skin, really, right?
Just light skin, yeah.
Or what they say, red bone, yellow bones. That's what
I
they say.
I have heard red bone. I don't really know what the yellow bone would be.
So that's the
heard
other
that.
part is like they're different skin tones, and the way that people act like they're the same be bothering me.
Let's not talk about colorism in the Black community today, because don't get me started.
Man.
I mean, if we were to talk about it, that would also get into, have y'all noticed?
Can we talk about the difference of Bree on the two covers? How she don't look the same if you put the covers side by side?
I didn't even look at it. I saw one of the white boys on the cover and I was like, I just need to take a break. And I never came off break. Which one is lighter or darker? Talk me through
The
it.
newer one is lighter.
Okay.
Nose looks different. Like it looks like a
So the
different-
Beyonce effect, because we can acknowledge that Beyonce has somehow gotten lighter in her time in Hollywood. I don't know if it's the lights or what, but
We
she's
can
been,
also
like,
acknowledge that Onika have as well.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
so then the media timeline is following. She's having some success and she's being lightened. But I'm not surprised. And I don't know where I was and I think maybe I had a conversation with Deidre about Legendborn on a live or something. I don't know. Maybe that happened, maybe it didn't.
No,
but
it didn't happen.
It didn't happen?
It did happen.
It did happen. Okay, so y'all have heard this before, but I'm saying it again. Because colorism, we think about colorism also, to me, like, not colorism, I feel like I'm making a definition. So I see colorism in, like, when we're talking about Black people, but also, this is not colorism, but adjacent to this conversation. The way that she describes Bree, and the way, if we look at all of the Black books that have come out in the last 5 years, when we look at the description of these Black girls, you will see a description of them that glorifies their Blackness and their beauty. No issue with that. Yes, the coils, the crown on the head, fine. The medium brown skin, love it. All of that. What I look for is the way that you describe the white characters. And the way that the white boys, both of them, were described in Legendborn, it was positively, like, beatific. Like, it was just beautiful. They were glorious, and I had issues with it. Like, because I knew, like, when on my second read, I was like, from a craft perspective, I could have known then what this book was going to be. And not what this book was going to be as far as, like, it's trash, because I think I gave Legendborn a 4.5. I think from a craft perspective, the book is solid, really. From a representation perspective, I would give that book like 2.
This is what I'm going to say. We know, because this is about gatekeeping, the formula that Britt talked about, in addition to Shay's definition of gatekeeping and publishing, mixed with colorism and how palatable you are presented as a Black person, really set up Legendborn success. Versus, let's go to Jordan Ifueko, dark skin, natural hair, the way she describes her characters. You can see in which the negative effects or the shortcomings of gatekeeping, mixed with all that I just said, affects the way in which Booktube and the literary community consumes us. Because if it was fair game, Ray Bearer would get way more hype than we give it credit for.
Yeah, no, the way that Booktube has, as a whole, because individually we know we haven't, but Booktube as a whole has ignored that duology is mind-blowing to me.
Literally giving, Ray Barrier owes me nothing. I'm still trying to think about critiques that I could give and I'm over here with nothing.
I have nothing.
I'm sorry.
I have nothing to say.
I'm sorry.
I
You're
don't
gonna
have
talk to your
words
literal
to
editor
say.
because I don't have anything to say to you about that.
I
Because
want to know what your editor had to say to you to get it to this point, because I'm like,
and
this
I
is a
also
massive
mad at her for not giving us a trilogy. That's what I'm really pissed about. Like you couldn't give us a third. That's what I'm really mad about.
Coming out. What I gotta wait for?
Literally, I'm like, what's the next one? Like, I know there's a comic. That's fine. I'm not really a comic girl. So when am I gonna be fed, Jordan? Without me?
Listen, your girl's here for that comic, but I'm saying, are we getting something else?
Are we getting a
Can we
novel?
talk about it?
How do you make
Think
me fall in
When we're
love with
talking
a villain?
When we're
How do
talking
you
about
make me fall in
covers,
love with a villain?
Wait, don't spoil it for Shay. But yes.
Oh,
when
sorry.
we're talking about, wait, you read Redemptor already, or you talking about Ray Bear?
Ray Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the mama, the lady had me. The
How you
lady
make me fall
had
in
me.
love
The lady.
with a villain?
First of all, that abomination line, I knew no matter what happened, I knew no matter how much the story fell off, I was getting to the end because of that line. I was like, I gotta see how this plays out. I don't care if she fall off. I just gotta see what she thought from here to the end, because that line was everything. Was
Just
everything.
Just
Now on this,
She was
because
not
we
fair.
want to give Jordan her props, and I want to talk about this because while we're talking about the covers and what y'all give us, can we talk about how Jordan is one of the first and only to give us 4C hair on a cover? If we're gonna talk about it, can we talk about how everybody's hair texture on these covers
It's like
is almost
3C.
exactly the same? When
It's giving us
we'll have
3C.
biracial characters and their hair be the same as the people that got fully Black parents, and you're like, wait a minute, because right, like we gotta acknowledge that part of the reason why Grown hit so well is the girl was different. She had the grown hoops, she had the little fade, she had this. It was a different Black girl look than what we're seeing. That cover had a lot of people in it.
That cover was gorgeous.
Right, it's a gorgeous cover. The cover to Grown is amazing. I think it's beautiful. But we have to acknowledge that we, even in this natural hair, we're telling people what natural hair we find to be acceptable.
Yeah. And even when we talk about how the hair is treated, right? Because Tara Leo, just everything her name means. Tar for life. But for who is coming? Oh, come on. But anyway, let's not get into my shouting mood. I'm just saying. Anyway, iconic. I'll hear nothing else about it. But the treatment that we see of hair, can we talk about it real quick? Because this is also like we're talking about gatekeeping as far as what characters we want to see.
I mean, we're talking about
characters that Booktube puts forward and publishing puts forward. I guess if I had to like summarize my 0.5 with Ray Bearer, not Ray Bearer, my 0.5 with Legendborn, it was, even though it was a first person point of view, I didn't get nearly enough of like Black girl concern coming from Bree. Like thinking about, I'm gonna break my hair off, thinking about where are the Black people? If we're in her mind and it's first person, which I believe it is, why aren't we getting any of that?
Right, because the truth of the matter is what you're saying and writing that is that never in her mind does she think about Blackness.
And that's what bothered me. It bothered the crap out of me. Because we did see her like noticing all the white people, but I'm like, that's only half of the consideration. Yes, we see the white people, but like, if I was in a situation, I would be yearning for Black people. Are you kidding me?
We had a problem with Wings of Ebony. It didn't make sense.
That year, even her sister was like, I just saw like a snippet of your memory. Where are the Black people? I don't know. Why does it matter? When I read that on the reread, I was like, wait. In what world would it not matter?
Right.
16 years on East Row, a year in Gizon, and it doesn't matter if you're surrounded by gray people.
I'm gonna just say it was giving me hood light.
Right.
And I just feel like, a closer representation of like, because I'd be wanting like hood stories. I just had to say it.
I do too.
I mean, and I just felt like even though Black Girl Unlimited was very heavy on the content warnings, I felt like it was giving.
I haven't read it.
I haven't read it either, but I felt the same about Long Division.
Long Division owes us nothing.
Not a
damn thing.
I'm so glad for all the things he's being nominated for. He got nominated for NAACP Image Award for it. He got nominated for other stuff, like, because you deserve it, because it was Blackness at its finest, and it was unapologetic about it, and I loved everything about that.
Yes,
I loved everything about that.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off of the hair part, for me, my book that is similar to how you guys feel about Legendborn is The Other Black Girl. And what I want to talk about with The Other Black Girl is what I feel like it goes into this conversation and other conversations that we have had about this thing. But in The Other Black Girl, okay, so I'll start from this point. We have talked about how there are words and things that we have said in our community for years that have been positive things that within the last 3 have become negative buzzwords. Like woke was always a badge of honor in the Black community. And now when something is woke, it's like a diss to it. It's like it's doing too much. It's, you know what I mean? It's too much, right? And so one of those things for us as Black people used to be natural hair. And that mechanism is very visible in the story of The Other Black Girl, right? Like the point of hair in that story was the more natural you are, the more down you are with your people. And I feel like when we look at publishing, that is the same thing. I feel like when these authors are taking to make sure they write an extra paragraph about natural hair, it's their way of making sure that, well, no, you know she Black. I made sure. And it's like, there's so much more to Blackness than this hair thing. And this hair and this description of curls or putting shea butter or getting braids should not be the only marker for Blackness in your story.
Also, in addition, and I could be making this up, but I find that when authors describe whiteness, the white skin, it is not the same as when they describe Black skin. I feel like it's a whole 2-3 paragraph about how glistening from the sun, whatever, and Black, I get reduced to chocolate. I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about.
I need y'all to take Jordan's masterclass on how to describe Black skin first and foremost.
She did it on like a reel in like 60 seconds, and I was like, you deserve that award.
Jordan and Fuego.
Really?
Yes.
Listen, I just want her to be my friend, and I feel like she's trying to run away from me, but I get it. But like, I've been trying to comment and be like, hey, internet buddy, and I feel like, she stayed to herself, which I get that. Respect your peace. But
here's the thing, she's making me realize that's the only way to move if you're going to be unapologetically Black in publishing. Yeah. You got to stay to yourself. Because the people who don't stay to themselves are the ones that we end up talking about.
They do move in squads.
I mean, you got to find your clique.
Or you got to get you a puppy and mind your business. Turn your books in on time, cash your checks. Really? Man. Seriously.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to bring that up because I was like, I feel like this has been the measure now, is how Black is the girl on the book cover and how much do you talk about hair in the story?
Exactly.
As we continue in this discussion, how do we interrupt this gatekeeping we're talking about? Like, how do you do it in your personal life?
So this was where I thought when we had the questions, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say, because when we were reading down the questions, I was like, I don't have these problems because I don't read what Booktube be reading. So I don't have these problems. Like my book reading, I don't feel no type of way, nothing. The little bit I be feeling is when Black people suggest stuff. But in general, I don't. I do not have these problems because Booktube does not determine what I read, because the truth is Booktube is predominantly white. I realize that y'all not running in the same circle I am. Y'all don't have the same goals. You don't have the same, what's the word we said earlier, Britt? Stakes that I have. You don't have the same stakes that I have in what I'm reading.
Yeah.
Right. That's why y'all could read White Smoke and not feel no type of way about it. You can read about that girl being thrown up against them lockers by a police officer and not feel no type of way about it.
Yeah,
and we never see her again, and that's A-okay.
You know, there's just, even sometimes I try to participate and I'd be like, why, Lord? And one of them is a vlog I did recently, which I liked. Because I like vlogging. I'm realizing I like it more than I thought I would, and the act of vlogging. But like me talking about, just choosing randomly five folks off the Goodreads situation, and it was just giving us whiteness after whiteness after whiteness. And I realized, because I read so much, I read a lot of Black literature, a lot of POC, that it wasn't giving. Like, I was like,
that is why reading Dead Until Dark is vexing me so. I'm vexed. I really am. I being in her head.
It's a lot.
It's giving pure and unadulterated. You understand? Pure unadulterated. No contamination. It's just the whole thing. The whole sausage. It's giving pure, unadulterated redneck, and I don't like it. I've said it before, I say it again. When her grandmother said, "Did we earn slaves?" I wanted to check out. And Deidre, you need to know this. The only reason I'm reading is because of you. That's it. This is the strength of my love for you. It's it. Oh, here's the thing. I keep forgetting that y'all are doing this together. I saw it on her channel.
Also, I feel like Deidre roped you into it. Like, you were reading it for the first time. So don't act like Deidre ain't the one that been selling us on this.
She is. She was like, I loved it when it came out. Like, Deidre was really the whole person for Sookie.
Actually, it was me. I said that I've seen all the True Blood, and I want to read the books. And Deidre got excited. And she was like, let's read them together. That's how that went.
But that's what I did. Like, for me, for how I saw it, like how it came out.
Right. It was from
Deidre's books from like when she was younger. She loved them, so she was excited. So because Deidre was excited about them, she felt some type of way. Is the only reason I was gonna read them, because they knew for you, so you don't feel nothing. You're getting into the first time. I was like,
I don't lie. Sookie is the worst.
Let me find it out.
Yes.
Sookie is the worst. I hate being in her head. But the reason why I'm liking this cheesy shit really is because I'm like, my younger self, even with all of her experiences, would have loved this book.
Not mine.
Not mine at all.
But also, I would have, no. I don't think my younger self would have read this.
No, and I wasn't vampire, so my younger self never would have read it. Like,
I was vampire.
Young Bree was like, yes, vampire, get me. Mm-hmm. Young Bree was about it, and I feel like I'm not gonna keep banger. Listen, I'm not gonna keep shame Young Bree. I'm not gonna keep shame Young Bree. She was into it. This Bree right now could care less. But for me, like I've told y'all, like I've said this on the internet so many times, reading is fairly new to me. Like reading as much as I do is fairly new to me. Even like when Shay and Ashley were talking about these books of their child, I can give you one book from my childhood because I can't. Like, it's an access thing. It's also trauma. It's a lot of stuff. So for me, I just started getting into it when college hit. So I'm like, oh, let's figure it out. You know, so young Bree was consuming every part of vampires. She wasn't missing an episode of Vampire Diaries. The originals, True Blood, young Bree was here for it. So now I feel like it just feels kind of cozy in this problematic shit, which is all through the book. Oh my God, it's so problematic. Young Bree would have been like, yes, this is it, 5 stars.
This is it.
No, 5 stars is me.
You know, what you know about me is I grow, but I don't change. So it's always been a no for me.
I don't know how I would have interacted with this book, honestly, because I did read Twilight. That's the only vampire book I read.
Young Bree was here for it. She never missed an episode. I mean, a movie, and never missed the book.
I didn't even start watching.
I watched one, and I was like, "Y'all were hyped for this."
Of what? Of True Blood?
Listen, Bree read it twice.
Of what?
Of the Twilight.
Oh, the movies weren't as good as the book. That's for me. That they never are, but that especially, I was like, there is no comparison.
Edward was a ginger, so.
I mean, I just did like the acting. I feel like they took awkwardness and they interpreted it as stiffness, and that's just my. That's my thing. That's not what she said, and that's what you did though. So yeah, I read all of Twilight. I'm not gonna lie about it. My parents went with me to the bookstore down the street, and we stood in line at midnight for the release of Breaking Dawn, and I'm sure they were thinking about the worst thing.
Never in my life have I done that.
I was in the line, baby.
I was reading the book in the line. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
In the line. I was in the line. Do you hear me?
And my parents I'm sure they were like, there are worse things to stand in line at midnight with your child for. So we just gonna
listen. I'm just saying. I be paying, and listen, even me reading, what is it? The series of unfortunate events. Yeah. There's been some things that said that's problematic, but 8-year-old Bree would have ate this up, 5 stars.
I absolutely read it all when I was a kid.
As a kid, I could not read it all because as a kid, I was like, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. As a kid, I stopped at like the 11th book.
Yeah, it's
like we're almost done.
And it was utterly ridiculous at that point that we were still having to convince y'all that this man was who this man
was. I don't know how I got through that as a kid, but as an adult, I can't.
Listen,
I cannot see kids being endangered and all these adults just utterly failing. Like, I understand what you're saying, Lemony, and it's a good message. But it's
right. By book 6, it's like, why? Like, at first, it's like cute and anecdotal, but once they become murderers, it's like, wait a minute, we're doing way too much.
Right, like now we're officially in theater of the absurd.
Right.
And I feel like no one's acknowledging that we're in the theater of the absurd.
I think the author really wants to let you know that it's unfortunate.
Well, see, what I got from it, and when I have talked to people about why I still think that it is a necessary series, at least for children to at the very least start, is that it brings 2 things to the forefront. One, the fact that adults are going to almost always be more likely to believe another adult over a child. That is a very common thing. Unfortunately, that is a thing. 2, it taught me as a child that children can be right and adults be wrong, because in the house that I grew up in, originally that isn't what you're taught. You're taught that the adults are always right.
Yep. And stay in a child's place.
This added a little nuance to that conversation, because then when I'm talking to my grandma about the book, then it is adults do make mistakes and adults are wrong, and that's when the conversation changed. So I feel like it is I appreciate the series for what it is and whatnot, but again, back to me always growing and never changing, even 11-year-old Shay could not finish that whole series.
Well, 31-year-old Bree is finishing it.
Oh, I'm finishing it. I want because I finished the show, and so I'm curious about where it deviates in the way the show ended from the book. So I want to read it, but now I'm reading it. It's a struggle at this point. It's definitely like I'm not having fun no more. It's not nostalgic. It's like, ooh, okay, let's get through it.
Listen, I'm trying to have something to lie to my great niece about I read when I was a kid, because that's what I'm doing.
Man, that's what I'm gonna do about Ray Bear and Redemptor.
I'm a lie.
I cannot wait to put it under the Christmas tree for my kids in the original cover, because by then, you know, it'll have another cover and everything. Like, nah, you keep this. This is an heirloom right here.
Now you can keep this.
This is original Jordan.
I ain't gonna lie.
Not the original Jordans.
I've been wanting to buy the first and second one. I don't own them. I only have the
I have the audiobooks.
I only have the ARC.
Okay.
Ray Bear. And y'all, I didn't know what I was getting into. Still to this day, it's one of the only books that I started and stayed up. Got coffee.
I'm invested. She caught me. I've been caught.
Listen, I was like, wow. And I felt like I was watching a movie in my head. I was like, oh, it's good. It's going down.
Yeah,
oh,
it's very visual.
When
I listened to the audiobook, I was seeing everything.
I was seeing everything. When they were in the
owes me
nothing, which is why now that it's going to be on Netflix, if they are not casting Angela Bassett as the lady,
trash.
I don't want it.
If we're being honest, that's the only lady I see.
That's the only lady I see. Angela Bassett.
Cause she could do it. Oh, she do the heck out of it.
I'm not roasting nobody. She better be dark skinned. That's what we want.
Ooh, this is definitely a tangent, but yo, dark skin ain't Viv, dark skin Carlton, dark skin Hillary is giving everything.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to watch just to see. I just gotta see it. The whole family dark skin. Now that's what childhood Shay wish she saw. You mean I get a bougie dark skinned black girl for the first time ever in my life? Name another one.
My favorite bougie dark skinned black girl, or one of my favorites, is Jackie Aine.
Right, a real life one, right.
Oh, Jackie. I love her bougie ass. Yes, steam that bed. I be all over TikTok. Like, yes, steam them pillows, sis. Get it. I love it. I love it. Moving to our last question. Do y'all have any recommendations?
For what?
Like, you know, non-booktube traditional reads that we could share.
I mean, say
everything that I get would be old. Like, it would be, you would be needing to go back and read people's stuff.
I think it's healthy. I think definitely reading people's backlist helps to see, especially if you're a writer, like seeing different trends. If you want to see models, better models of how things are, I think read the backlist, because the trends were not then what they are now. I would say for romance, there's a lot of indie authors doing romance on publishing through Amazon. Interesting. Okay. Publishing through Amazon. So if you have Amazon Prime and you have Amazon Kindle, then you're getting a lot of indie authors on Amazon.
Hoopla, don't sleep on Hoopla.
If you're against the Amazon empire, then Hoopla is another option where you can get a lot of indie, authors. And definitely, like, there are particular booktubers who will like hype indie people, but by and large, that's not a thing. So that will also get you in. And if you follow them on social media, they be hyping each other. So if you want to, like, if you want new authors to read, go follow indie authors that you do like, and they will definitely be hyping each other, and you'll get new ones to read from there. They have book dates with each other, just like Tried Pub authors do. So that's a good place to, like, Bookstagram for authors, Amazon, but also, right, like booktubers who you have watched their stuff, and a lot of the stuff that you see is not what people are talking about. So Chloe and Njeri do like author interviews of authors that I have never heard of before. And they'll be in conversation with them. And Bree too, like I had never heard of Aliyah Dawn Johnson before that. And so I read Trouble the Saints and I was like, okay.
Love Trouble the Saints. Yeah.
So off her alone, I was like, I must consume this book.
Yeah.
So I think looking at different people's channel, just scrolling through their playlists, look at some author interviews, look at Rex, and are they reading books that everyone's talking about, or are they reading books where you're like, who? Because if you're like, who, that's a good feeling, because you're like, oh, okay, I can actually learn something here that I am not hearing from everybody else. So I would look at those channels to see like what books they recommend, because I've read a lot of books that I hadn't heard about before from engaging their content. That, and also Vina, like her blog, WOC Reader, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
What it is.
Yeah, her blog, longstanding, and then recently she has a YouTube channel. I think the YouTube channel is more conversational, but her blog gives like reviews of books. So those are just a couple where they're usually talking about people who are writing things that are not on trend and are therefore less toxic. So those are my recommendations. I don't know.
I will also add someone else. She's not Black, but she is constantly reading Black romance backlist and authors I never heard of in my life. And that is Nicole from Who Picked This Book.
I absolutely know you were going to
definitely go to her channel. The fact that she only has 1,400 subscribers is fucking beyond me, because she definitely deserves her flowers while she's here. And I'm saying that to say, literally, just go over there. Especially if you're looking for romance, like you're gonna find a Black author you ain't never heard of in the history of ever. And also Deidre from Shay, she reads a lot of mugs I don't know. And Ashley also reads a lot of mugs that I don't know, as far as romance.
Quiet as it's kept, it says a lot about one of the only white people to highlight Black people in a respectful manner has some of the lowest, because we know they grow really fast. So it's something to say about somebody who highlights in a respectful, don't ever need to be checked because it's never out of line when she does it.
And it's always Black love for the most part. For the most part, it's Black love. I mean, going back to gatekeeping, we can see how gatekeeping can be in publishing, like Shay's definition, could really hurt, like, an author's success. Christina C. Jones, this woman has written almost 90 books consistently of Black love. 90 books. And here we are, I love Talia Hilbert. She giving us interracial love. And that is like the best thing anyone has ever heard. And people are considering that to be Black love, which is not. So, and that's no shade. It's just not. So It's just like, we see.
It's not shade to her because she says it's not Black love. She knows it. So
yeah, she can tell you.
Right. She wants people to tell the truth. And that's the thing. I'm like, what? Again, trying to profit off of these trends. So like Black love. Now we're arguing about interracial love being Black love. Because if you talk to some cultures, they will tell their children to marry a white man. They are not confused about what interracial love is. But we have to have that, like, it's just people talking on things that don't affect them at all.
It's not a confusion, it's a lie. Like
it's not even a lie. It is a unfortunate result of white supremacy, that other people can be like, hey, Asian love. And you're like, okay, two Asian folks. Indian love. Oh, two people from India.
Unapologetic
love. Oh, it's two indigenous folks. Got it. When it's Black love, wait a minute.
Confusion.
What if they are Black this and Black that and their partner is white, but they are very pro-Black? Still interracial love. Just because you're dating someone who is not Black doesn't mean that kills your view of yourself and kills how you view yourself or whatever your pro-blackness looks like. We're just saying you're not in a Black love relationship. That doesn't mean you're not a product of Black love. That doesn't mean you haven't seen Black love.
Or that you're not in a loving relationship. Just because it's not Black love doesn't mean
That's
it's
the
not
part
love.
that I think y'all hear. I think we say it's not Black love, and y'all think we talking about your partner being a bad partner. Like, that's not what we're saying. We just saying the adjective is wrong.
And I'm tired of that. We have to have these arguments about Black anything. It's tiring. Just accept it and let's move on.
Right.
When I sent Britt that link to put in there, that's what that historian is talking about. He talks about, like, there's never been any other people in which we've worked so hard to keep them from having something that's theirs. We always want to destroy it. It can't, because if they get too powerful, if they get too close, if they get too good, it's going to be the destruction of us.
Even algorithms, science against us.
It's not science.
Still might get flagged.
It's y'all. It's y'all. Like, that's the other part, is y'all have created things to tell us that there's something wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I don't know how many times I have gotten a video not monetized because I said Black.
And that's just like a normal occurrence on this platform.
It's so heartbreaking.
The way I've seen people like bleep out the word Black or racism or like those in their videos so that the video doesn't get taken down or it doesn't get shadow banned or any of that. It's like,
we gotta go through all of that. People using emojis. People are saying Skywalkers. You know, people are
we coming up with all kinds of things.
People are saying everything. You know, like I had to do. You know, it's just everything that people are doing to say everything.
And
like,
that's why we can't have direct discussions, because the internet is teaching us not to be indirect and therefore be unable to confront the issue. We over here talking about palm colored folk. Now, if it's a joke, fine. But if we feel we actually have to say that because we can't say white, I'm not monetized. Ridiculous.
Right.
But even if you were, you know, I'll be.
Even if I was, YouTube is not paying my bills.
You know, I don't care.
Don't monetize anything. It's paying pennies. I don't care.
It's definitely pennies.
Even when you get monetized, it's paying pennies. So again,
exactly. So I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Like, I don't.
And here's the thing.
They are loud with their disrespect. I'm going to be loud when I address it. Period.
You know, Shay, you and Britt say that all the time. And I feel like you're calling me in and it makes me uncomfortable and I like it.
I've actually never said that, but I do have that energy.
It's for me, and I feel like this also comes from like the house that I was raised in, right? So like, it's never been anything but Blackness for me. Like, that's always been it. And so like all these things, like I part of the hardest part of being in these communities for me is having grace with other Black people. Because for me, I'm like, how do you not see what I'm seeing? How do you not feel what I'm feeling? How does this not hurt you how it hurts me?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't sit there and allow this blatant disregard for us and how we move through this world.
But again, that goes to being able to have a discussion. That's not just with people who you disagree, that's people who you wish that you didn't disagree with, but you do.
Right.
People who you're friends with, and it's just like, what? Like, you have to be able to have a disagreement with anyone and still be able to not step outside yourself.
Right.
It really shouldn't take that. If you can't have the discussion, just say that. I can't have this discussion right now. We'll either have to reschedule or put it on the calendar for February. Like,
right.
I will, like, that's just it. But it doesn't have to get, I'm just sick of seeing it. Because it's starting to teach our children that we can't have disagreements, and that's not true, and it's dangerous.
Right. Because the truth is, we're not always gonna agree. Like that's
Most
just
of the time we're not. It should be
We're
okay.
not. It's the truth of the matter. Our experiences are different. So how we move through the world is gonna be different. What's okay for me as a dark-skinned woman is not the same as light-skinned women. Like the truth is there are differences. Period.
Right. And that doesn't have anything to do with the ability to respect another person.
At all.
Their beliefs don't have anything to do with you being able to respect that they're having a human experience, that their context is playing into how they're behaving, and that whether they are overcoming it or they're under it, they're having a human experience. That doesn't mean that they get granted all access to you, but just acknowledging that can do something for the respect that you give them. Even if it's respectfully, we can't have a conversation right now.
Respectfully, we disagree and we don't see eye to eye on this.
And that's it.
And then speaking on acknowledgement, I just want to say, even though we do when Black women speak, and we've done many episodes, this in itself is exhausting. And like the fact that we do this is really a treat because like we out here existing and thriving and showing up every day Black, and then decide to share this with the internet folks, most of which who are probably in the premiere chat right now are white. So this is a lot. Like I'm gonna need a nap. I just wanted to acknowledge like this is hard work that we're doing. We've gotten upset. We've gotten, pissed. We've experienced every emotion in this, and being very truthful and vulnerable with that. Also knowing that we could also be very much perceived as three angry when Black women speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to acknowledge the mental warfare in a way that we do when we step up and do things like this. And it's difficult. I won't say that it's easy. I like doing it, but I also can't, I would be wrong and remiss if I didn't say that it's exhausting for me. Because I work at a PWI. I'm surrounded by white folks. I'm constantly putting my body on the line. And then I come home and I interact on the internet with mostly white folks. That was exhausting.
Yeah. 100%.
It's going to be a damper. I just wanted to acknowledge it.
No, that's fine. I was just thinking when you were like, and then I come on the internet, mostly interact with white folks. And I was just thinking like, I kind of do, but I also kind of don't. Like, I interact with mostly Black people on the internet. Like there are white people in my comments and I do talk to them, but that's the extent of the interaction. And that's completely fine and also very intentional. And that's just true. That doesn't mean I don't like my white subscribers. That doesn't mean that. That just means I control internet access, because the internet really be out here with real place repercussions, but it's a non-space. Like it's a non-place. So I'm not about to have a non-place cause me stress. So I just control across the board interaction and access to me. And it made me think of this TikTok that I was telling Shay about, where it was this pit bull and he was like, or no, it was a Rottweiler, very cute, chubby cheeks. And he was like stretching out in the bed and he was like, he said, I don't have friends because I don't like going out. I'm for the street. I'm for the sheets, not for the streets, baby.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen that.
And I'm like, I'm really for the sheets. Like I really am.
Really for the sheets.
I am really for the sheets. Like I come on here for very specific purposes. And when those purposes are accomplished, I am for the sheets. The broadcast will end. I will kiki with whom I choose to kiki. And then I'm for the sheets. I really am. And that's just the best way for me to be in this non-place called the internet. we have said a lot. We have been on here for a long time talking about what? Booktube and what? Gatekeeping all over the place.
But
Per usual, it all tracks back though.
I feel like it all, like we did a lot of nuanced work.
No, we definitely did. Like if you thought it was a tangent, you weren't paying attention, because it was all about censure, gatekeeping, formula, like representation. It was all there. I hope you caught up with it. All right. Do y'all have anything you want to announce that's going down on your channels?
I had planned to announce the readathon, but Bree already did it.
Okay.
That was how I was gonna close, and I was like, "What's
Oh, dang.
Okay."
Do you want to say anything more about it?
I had a lot of energy in the beginning.
No, it's okay.
No,
All right.
I mean, like she covered it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it, y'all. You still have time to get in on Shay's first annual Missy Elliott readathon. All the graphics are in all the places. Definitely tag Shay, me, and Dejana with anything we want to see, we want to reach, we want to repost, tag us and everything. Don't feel pulled to do anything, because once again, you can do what? Read those 2 group reads and get all 7 prompts. Please don't exhaust yourself, because we're not. Okay, so thank y'all so much for joining us in our first pre-recorded episode. We hope that y'all were just as lively in the comments as you always are, because that really means a lot to us. We want to try to get that same experience as much as possible, even though we couldn't be live. Thank y'all so much for rocking with us. Y'all have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.